Okay, so far what we used was we face and return using the cutting tool here. However, we're gonna learn about one more tool and how to use it. So we're gonna use the parting tool, which is this tool right here, right? So the parting tool is used to groove or to part my piece here. That means like a cut, right? So what I'm gonna do is I have my quick my quick change tool here. I'm gonna push back this lever, right? And then now it's released. Now I can remove it. I'm gonna put it back here. I'm gonna get my parting tool. Place the parting tool in there. Okay, now the parting tool is set. But now we have to make sure that my parting tool is actually perpendicular to my stock, right? Because this piece, it moves, right? So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna bring it very close to the jaws of my chuck. Let's see if you can see here. Can you see this is my tool? And that's my jaw, right? So I'm gonna move my jaw here by hand. I'm gonna move this back in. And my goal is actually to see if this guy is actually parallel with the jaws of my chuck there, right? So I would have to release my quick connect tool here. So I'm gonna use this adjustable wrench and unlock it. Good. Let's not use this as a table, because often when people start using this as a table, we forget tools here, and then now with vibration it can actually fall into the chuck, and if the chuck is running at like a 2000 RPM, it's just gonna shoot that piece like somewhere. So what I'm gonna do is we're always gonna use this back panel, this board here as our table, or the stand or the cart as the table, right? So what I'm gonna do now is, now I released, I can move this around, see? So my goal is to actually move my tool very close there and adjust the parallelism. Until you're happy with it. All right, so I think I'm happy enough with that. So now I'm gonna get my wrench again. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna slowly get it tight. And then now it's a little tight, right? So now I can put more pressure on it. Like, sometimes if I try to put pressure right away without getting like a little tight, then the whole thing is gonna move. So right now, I'm happy with how these two pieces are actually parallel, right? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm ready to, so my tool is set. So now I can part that piece, right? So if my parting is gonna happen somewhere in here along the body, what I'm gonna do is I can see that my stock is extending more than 2 diameters, which was the rule of thumb that we're using. So we would hold with the live center. So I'm gonna lock my tailstock, I'm gonna extend, touch it up, half a third or a quarter of a turn. I'm gonna lock my wheel here so the wheel doesn't back off and release that one. So right now, if I start my piece here, you're gonna see that my live center is gonna be rotating, right? And we'll be back here. you guys can see anything there. You see like how the life center is there. So I'm just gonna start. And you can see that this piece is actually not rotating right now. So that means I'm gonna have to see now it's rotating. And then now I lock, right? Good. So now I can see that my work is being held one side by the chuck, the other side by the livestock, by the live center. So what I'm gonna do now is to cut here, we're gonna cut at about like a 70 RPMs, right? So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna lower my speed here until you get to 70. So 98, 77, 72, 69, 63. All right, good. So we're at like a 70, but like it should be about there. If you go like a little slower or a little faster, it's not a major problem. So what we're gonna do is, now we can, again, like I'm gonna move it in until we scratch it a little bit. So I'm coming in both hands, right? That's how we exercised before. When you get close, we're gonna go even slower. And then now you can see that like we scratch a little bit on the surface. So that's gonna be my, so that axis is my Y axis. All right. So I zeroed my X, right? Now I'm gonna zero my Y axis. So let me pull this back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it right on the tip there. So this tool, we shouldn't be cutting sideways. It doesn't work to cut sideways. So like what we have to do is, as I touch, we're gonna see that my tool actually is gonna deflect to the right. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna touch it lightly in the front. Good. So that's my Y, right? So now I zeroed my Y, that's this axis, and I zeroed my X, which is that axis, right? So now I can pull it out. Okay, so let's, I'm gonna show you something. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but like, I'm gonna try to do something here quick. So show you something. All right, so we have to know where we are, we have to know where we are gonna position our where we're gonna position our parting tool, right? So for example, we have our parting tool here, right? That's how it looks, and that's our stock. So what we did was, I brought my tool back here, and I touch it right there, right? And I zeroed my X. Good? So X equals to 0. Let's see. So X equals to 0. Good? All right. What else did we do? We did, I brought my tool up here in the front, and I brought it in this way until I touch it sideways very lightly, right? And then I did Y equals to 0, right? So now I zeroed my X and my Y. However, which side of my tool I zeroed, it matters. So like we zeroed this side of the tool, not that side. So if my cut here, let's say I have a groove here that I have to make, right? So that's what I have to make. let's say if the dimension that I'm asked to cut is this dimension, see? From the front here, from the face, all the way to the side here. Can you see that? Let's say if this is 1 inch. If I move my tool, if I get my tool and I move my tool 1 inch that way, I'm gonna have moved this side 1 inch and not that side. So technically, my tool is gonna be about here. It's gonna be about like a little bit to that side. So to be able, so we would have to match this side. So this side of the cut, I need to put it there, right? So I'm gonna draw what I need to do, right? So to be able to make this side of my tool to go to this side of the cut, I'm gonna have to go 1 inch plus what? Plus the thickness of my parting tool there, right? So you're gonna measure the thickness of the parting tool, so you can add. So you're gonna zero here, and then you're gonna move. So now we're gonna move Y. So I think I'm out of the, all right, it's gonna be 1 inch plus the thickness, right, of my parting tool. So I can actually get that side to this side. You can ask questions if in the lab if you have questions. So again, for the parting tool, we're going to use so it's going to be 70 RPMs. That's what we're going to use for the parting tool. And we're going to slowly move in, right? So let me get back here. So again, let's say I'm going to move let's say 1 inch plus the thickness of my parting tool. So I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna measure my parting tool. Let's say it's 0.123, or so 123 thousandths. So I'm zeroed on the Y, right? So I'm gonna move in 1 inch plus 123 thousandths. All right, let's say 125 thousandths there. So now I can start cutting in my X direction, right? So again, 70 RPMs here on the speed. We're gonna do it by hand. So remember, when I buy the stock, the outside of the stock, it's roughly 1 inch. However, it's not exact, right? You wanna hold this side, right? I'm gonna hold that side. Now I can start. Oops, sorry. Go back to my 125, 133. Good. So now that I'm only gonna move in the X direction, something that I can do is actually I can lock my carriage in place. So my carriage is not gonna travel sideways. I do that because as I cut, the metal doesn't want to be cut, so it's gonna try to push me sideways. It's gonna try to push me back. So what I'm gonna do is get the right tool here, so I can come in here and I can lock this piece here. So now it's gonna be difficult for me to move my Y, see? Okay. So that being said, what I'm gonna do is now I'm only gonna work on the X, right? I'm gonna touch off, and hopefully that's at 0 or about. But what I care the most is not about my first touch, but like is actually start taking some material, and then after a little bit, then I can go and measure again, right? Once I see the full ring. So let's see, our goal is actually to go to 900 thousandths, right? So I'm gonna come in, and let's say I'm gonna go in 75 thousandths or 50 thousandths, right? I'm gonna go in 50 thousandths. So that's my reading there. I'm gonna go in 50 thousandths. So I'm gonna go 9, 15, 20, 30, 40, and the way, so I'm gonna go up to 50, right? And the way that I'm doing here is actually, let's see if I can see my hand right there. So I'm just gonna move it like I know that's difficult to cut. Let's say I'm gonna go to 60. Just got them right at 50. So like I'm gonna see I'm just gonna keep pushing, see? Right, so that was 60. Good. Now, what do we do after every operation? After every operation, I took 60. I was at 1 inch, I took 60 thousandths. So now, before I do anything, I'm gonna zero my X at the bottom, right? So we know how to get back there. Now I can move back. And then after I move back, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure in that groove, right? Remember that we have to keep the caliper beyond my center, right? Like lower than my center, because if I measure here on top, I don't measure the diameter, right? So I have to measure below, and I have to measure in a way that my tool is actually perpendicular to my stock. If I'm measuring like this, I'm actually adding some dimension to my reading that's not correct, right? We can talk about this in during the lab. So I'm gonna do it here, and I'm at 946. So I took 60, and now I'm at 946. Let me try again. Uh, 945. So I'm at 945. So now it doesn't matter how much I took before. It's just how much I'm gonna take from now, right? Because I zero at the bottom. So now I can start again. I can go all the way back to 0. So see, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go all the way back to 0, and I expect not to take any material until I get to 0. All right, now we're about to take material off there, right? So I wanted to go to 900 from 1, so I have to take 100. I took 60. It led me at 945, so I have 945 to go. So what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna take 40. So I'm gonna go to minus 40 on this one to be at like a 905 thousandths. So I have to take 40 thousandths here in the pass. Good. All right, I can stop. But remember, 40 thousandths, the one thing that I'm gonna do at the bottom is zero my X. So now I can go back to my bottom, right? So now I'm gonna measure it again. Remember, lower than the center and measure it perpendicular to my stock. I'm at 900.07. So maybe that's gonna be within my range, within my tolerance, maybe not. Good? So that's what we do. We always plan, we take the cut, and then, so what to expect from our cut? So what I expect from my cut is this. My tool is actually shaped like that. So whenever I take a cut, on the bottom here is actually not perfectly flat compared to the surface there. So I expect it to be a little different here. Good? In case my groove has to be wider than the thickness of the blade, what I would have to do is actually I cut. When I get to the bottom here, I zero my X. So I do X equals to 0. And then now I move my blade back. I move my blade to the side. And I place my blade right there. And then now I can cut it again. And then now I get, if I put it right, these two lined up, then I get 2 thickness of the blade. If I need less than 2 thickness, then it's just like we're just gonna move my Y into like a specific value to make it work, right? So that's how we use this tool. And we can plan for that. You can watch this video. And then again, like the other labs, we're gonna have more, you're gonna have questions and we're gonna solve the questions like in the lab. Okay, thank you.